have given methods of teaching part 1, methods of teaching part 2. So in today's session, methods of teaching part 1, we are going to focus on teacher-centered methods. Okay. And in part 2, that is in the next session, in tomorrow's session, we are going to focus on learner-centered methods. So in teacher-centered methods, there are multiple approaches that are there. And then we'll also look into what are the advantages of these methods and disadvantages of these methods, and what are the support materials and other things that are available, which can be made used by the teachers. Okay. So as usual, before we start, so whatever classes we take, they are available on our Tej Academy YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the channel, and whenever a new video drops, you can have a look at it. Other than that, we are providing multiple mock tests for AMRS examination on our Tej Academy app, and you can download our Tej Academy app either through Google Play Store or through this QR scanner given on screen, and avail the mock test. Not only mock test, also our digital notes. As you can see here on the screen, we also provide detailed notes of all the topics that we are covering here on our Tej Academy app. So you can access our notes also from there. So let us start today's session. We're discussing about teaching method, right? And teaching method is something that is very important for us teachers to know. And we know that in the modern time, we are discussing about a lot of different teaching methods, right? Constructivism is something that is mostly or widely talked about. Good evening, Anup. Welcome. So, in today's session, let us look into the teacher-centered method. Before moving to teacher-centered method, we should understand what teaching method is. So when we talk about teaching method is a systematic way of presenting information. Okay. When you talk about a teaching method, it is a systematic way of presenting information. And through our teaching method, we will be guiding the learning process. And what is our main goal? It is to achieve our educational objectives that we have framed. If we'll be able to remember our first session where we had a session on Bloom's taxonomy, and Bloom's taxonomy is something that we use, the cognitive domains we use to, write our learning objectives. Based on each domain, there are specific action verbs. We use those action verbs to write our learning objectives. So this is the basic thing that is about teaching, right? Presenting information, guiding learning, and achieving our learning objectives. Then, when we talk about methods of teaching, as I was talking earlier, there are two major methods. One is teacher-centered method, the traditional method, and the other one is learner-centered method, which is now being talked about a lot. We cannot say it's exactly modern because even NCF 2005 has talked about learner-centered teaching, and John Dewey and others spoke long back in the 90s and 80s about learner-centered teaching. But when it comes to adoption of learner-centered teaching in classroom, it's fairly recent. So when we talk about teacher-centered methods, here in teacher-centered method, the teacher is the central figure, right? The class revolves around the teacher. If you remember the older classes, we had used the term sage on the stage. So the primary source of knowledge, right, is teacher. And students are usually passive recipients in a teacher-centered classroom. Whereas when we look into the learner-centered methods or learner-centered classrooms, the teacher acts as a guide or acts as a facilitator, and teacher does scaffolding, right? Students are the active participants in their own learning in learner-centered method. So today's class will be focusing completely on teacher-centered method. If you have any doubt, if you have any confusion anywhere, you can just unmute and speak or put your query in the chat box and we will have a discussion about it. Moving to first method. The first one is the lecture method. Lecture method is something that we all know. We might have used one or the other point of time. See, one major thing that we need to understand when we talk about teaching methods is that we will not use a particular single method for an entire class. Even a constructivist class might include lecturing for some aspect of it, right? So for some aspect you're lecturing, for some aspect you're doing an activity, for some aspect you're doing something else. So amalgamation of all these things will make your entire class. So lecture method is one way of transaction, one way of teaching, one method of teaching. So what happens in lecture method? It is, as we all know, lecture method is one of the oldest teaching method. Even if you look at the Gurukula system and other things, it was on lecture method. So what happens in lecture method? It's a one-way communication where the teacher presents in whatever they have planned for the class, right? Teacher presents an organized class or a information that they have planned. And whom do they do it? To the group of students. So lecture method is one-way communication where the teacher transacts the class to the students. And what happens in the class? The teacher talks. And who listen? The students listen. And ideally, if we say, the students also take notes. And when we talk about lecture method, it is highly structured, right? The teacher plans the class. He has particular sequence in which he is planning to go. And also a lecture method is completely controlled by the teacher. So, in case in examination, if they are asking you a question and giving you multiple methods in the options, asking which is the method in which teacher has a complete control over the class, remember it is the lecture method. So, what lecture method is good for? Right? We cannot say that lecture method is something that should not be used at all. No, at some instances you might require it. For example, while for giving a definition, right? Or if you're talking about a new topic, or you are trying to provide a broad overview of something, or you're just giving them factual knowledge information, right? And mainly lecture method works when you're transacting information to a large group, right? So when we look into the advantages of lecture method, first thing is it is efficient. Why it is efficient? Because a large amount of information can be delivered to many students in a very short period of time, right? So it is efficient. Lecture method is also economical, right? Because your very minimal resources will be used in the class, very minimal teaching aids will be used in the class. Most of the time you'll be speaking, right? So you'll not be using any resource that might require, for you to shell out money. So it is economical. And the last one is full control, right? So a teacher controls the entire class. When we say the class, the teacher controls the content, what content is to be taught, right? In what pace will the class go? And what is the sequence in which we are going to cover the content so that you're ensuring that entire syllabus is covered. So the teacher has full advantage over the class, full control over the class in the lecture method. When we look into the disadvantages or cons, the first one is passive learning. Passive learning by whom? By the students. Students are mentally and physically passive in a lecture method class. What happens here? Because of this passive learning, it often leads to poor retention among students. Some might listen, some might not listen. Then there is no individualization. Yes, yes. Dr. Nagaraju, you have any doubt? Dr. G. Nagaraju, can you please mute yourself? Thank you so much. Thank you. So I was talking about lecture method and I was talking about the cons, and I just spoke about passive learning, and one more is no individualization, right? We had used the term, we have been using a term in a class known as individual differences, which means every learner is unique. And whatever we teach, whatever we plan for teaching should cater to different types of learners. But in a lecture method, this is not met. This criteria is not fulfilled. So no individualization in the lecture method, one of the con, right? And as we all know, lecture method classes can be boring. Why? Because they are monotonous. The teacher just keeps speaking. So students very easily lose focus in a lecture method class. Then lecture method is poor for skill development, not only for students but also for teaching, because it is ineffective for teaching skills. You're not giving them any activity, you're not giving them any problem to solve, you're not making them do anything. And it is also not good for changing attitudes of the learners. So these were the pros and cons of lecture method. Any doubt on lecture method? Anything that you have come across and you have any confusion or you need any clarification regarding the same? Please ask me. If not, we'll move ahead. Okay, thank you. Let us move on to the next one, that is the demonstration method, right? So you know what is demonstration, demonstration, everything, but showing something, right? And what the students do here, they observe. So this method involves teachers showing how something is done, right? You are conducting an activity, a science activity, or something else you're doing, where you're showing the students how something is done while providing an explanation with it. Right? You're not just simply doing an experiment. You're also saying, see, I'm taking some sodium, I'm covering it in cotton, I'm putting it in water. See what is happening. It's getting it's flaming up or something like that. Right? So you're showing here. And what principle it is based on? It is based on the principle of learning by observation. Students learn by observation. And usually the demonstration method is followed by a lecture, right? A lecture or a discussion. Sometimes a discussion also takes place. So, how do you think a lecture method works? A teacher performs an experiment in the class, right? The teacher can solve a complex math problem on the board, or do an activity in the class, or a computer teacher can show how to navigate through a particular interface, how to use Microsoft Paint, something like that, right? So, what students do here? Students observe the procedure or the thing that is happening in action. And they also observe the final result. Here, students are not doing anything. The teacher is doing in the demonstration method. Students are just observing. So, what is this best for? What is the demonstration method best for? It is for teaching a procedural skill, right? Or illustrating how a scientific principle works. But as we all know, when students are involved in the process, they learn better. But this was a method that was followed, and even now many teachers use this method. When we come to the advantages of demonstration method, the first one is it is engaging. Students love when something is being done and they can observe something new happening, right? So it's more engaging than a lecture that we discussed before because it involves visual elements. Something is happening in front of them, right? An action is happening in front of them. So they are engaging. Then concrete learning takes place. So just now you have lectured about a theory, right? Newton's third law of motion you talked about. And then you're doing an experiment. Students are observing and they're seeing that in action, seeing the theory in action. So it helps them in concrete learning. And one more thing which we can say is this improves observation. It helps students develop their observation and critical thinking skills. These are the advantages or the pros. When we come to the disadvantages, the first one is for sure if the classroom is very big and the teacher does not have a proper platform to showcase the students the demonstration, then there will be visibility issues, right? And if there is a visibility issue, most of the students will not be able to see the experiment properly or they'll miss out some of the parts, sometimes the major parts of what is being demonstrated. And second one is demonstrate in the demonstration method class, the students are still passive. They are just observing. And if the activity that you're conducting is not interesting enough, the students will lose interest and also focus in what you're doing. The third one is cost and time. In the lecture method, there was no cost involved because you are just lecturing. Sometimes you might use something or the other. But when it comes to demonstration method, here cost is involved and here time is also involved. For example, if you're conducting an experiment in the class, you have to set up the experiment, you have to demonstrate it, right? And then you have to show how it works, you have to lecture about it, and then you have to remove it. And sometimes the materials that you are using to demonstrate might not be available and might have to buy it or order it for the school. So it is costly and it is also time consuming. And the last one is pacing. Sometimes what happens, no, in demonstration method, the teacher may go too fast to complete everything in time, or might go too slow, and some of the things are missed. So pacing is also a problem in the lecture, sorry, in the demonstration method. Any doubt here in the demonstration method? Okay, let us go to the third one, that is team teaching. Have you heard about team teaching? Kavita, Pallavi, Anu, in your B.Ed classes at least, have you heard about team teaching?
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Okay, Anu, that's great. What about others?
The work will be divided in team wise, group wise.
No, 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 no. Okay, team teaching for teachers, Anu.
Oh,
Okay, so no problem if you've not heard also, because team teaching is something that was more of a behavioristic way of teaching. Now we are talking about constructivism. So in our B.Ed classes also, we might not have been taught about it. So when we talk about team teaching, this is an approach where two or more teachers teach in a class. It's not one teacher teaching in a class, two or more teacher teach. And how do they teach? They collaborate first. They collaborate, they plan for the class. Okay. Then they prepare whatever is necessary for the class. Then they come and teach. And then they evaluate the same group of students. That is team teaching. So it is a way to make teacher-centered instruction more dynamic. That is team teaching. Team teaching was something earlier, not recent, now, not now, but earlier. Let's say 15 years back, it was considered as an innovative method of teaching. But still, it was teacher-centered. So, how it works, if you look into how the team teaching works, for example, one teacher might deliver a lecture on a topic, while other teacher might give examples, real world examples of what has been taught. Or two teachers can debate on a particular topic and show students what are the different perspectives that can come for a particular topic, for a similar topic. Or one teacher handles the main instruction, the main what is being done, while the other monitors if students is understanding or not, or go to a student and discuss with them, have you understood? All those things. So this is team teaching. So what team teaching is good for? Team teaching is good for interdisciplinary learning, right? So if you're teaching them about a particular topic where two subjects have the similar thing. For example, in geography, you'd learn about different tropical zones. In science, also to some extent, you learn about forests and other things, right? So these two teachers can collaborate together and take a class. So here, the teachers can utilize their unique strength in their particular area. When we look into the advantages of team teaching, first one is the students will have access to expertise. Not one, but two teachers will be in the class. Students benefit from the specialized knowledge and teaching styles of multiple experts here. Then students get better support because more teachers are in the room. More teacher means more support. Ideally, we are talking in an ideal situation. Okay. Then professional development. So team teaching is a great way for teachers to learn from each other, right? And when we look into the disadvantages of team teaching requires planning. And for this planning, you need to have a coordination with other teacher, and it requires time. And if the teachers are not having proper compatibility, those who have already been working in schools or might have done their internship might have come across this thing that there is a small political situation that occurs in the classroom where some teachers are not good with each other, some teachers are good but they are not sharing resources, or there might be a lot of other reasons, right? So if there are compatibility issues between teachers, then team teaching will not work. And then, as I was talking about compatibility, one of the major problem for team teaching might be potential for conflict. For example, teachers have planned the class, they have come to the class, and during discussion, one teacher disagrees with other teacher, and they might start arguing, right? And that can become a problem. That can be a con. Then again, team teaching, if you're using resources and if you're using multiple things, then it can also be a little costly. So this was team teaching. Any doubt regarding team teaching?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Kavita. Let us move into the next part, that is support materials or TLMs for these teaching methods. So you all know TLM means teaching learning materials, teaching learning materials. Okay. NCRT has now started calling them LR. LR means learning resources. Okay. Because there was a big debate that was going on saying why TLM and why not LTM, because learning comes first. But then, NCRT being NCRT, they chose a smart move and they started calling it learning resources. But if you come across the term TLM, remember it's teaching learning materials. So for a teacher-centered classroom, what are the different support materials that are there? The biggest support material is chalkboard, chalk piece and board and or your whiteboard that you're going to use in the classroom, right? Because in lecture method, majority of the time you'll be writing on the board and then discussing and lecturing. Same whiteboard is alternative of a blackboard and chalk. Then charts and posters can be used by teachers as support material during the class. Charts you can use charts to show something specific, right? For example, if you're showing them diagrams or if you're talking about formulas or any other thing, then charts work. Models. Again, when you want to explain something to students through demonstration or through some other thing, some other mode, then models will be one support material for you. Then, realia. What does this mean? Realia means real life objects, right? For example, you're a biology teacher and you're bringing here specimens. Your biology teacher might have shown you specimens, right? Specimens of different invertebrates or small organisms that are available in the lab. So that can also be a support material for a teacher-centered classroom. Any doubt here in support material? So in the previous one, we looked into the visual aids that a teacher can use in the classroom. Visual aids means which students can look at. Okay. And the second one is audio visual aids, the one which they can hear and also look at. So audio visual aids can be, you can take PowerPoint slides, videos and animations, or you can use smart board. Now, most of the modern schools have smart boards in their classroom. These smart boards sometimes come with integrated software. So sometimes all you can do is you can display whatever you want and play it for the students. So these are audio visual aids. Then, what are the other support materials? So, NCRT and CBSE support materials. So, we all know that textbook, when it comes for central government schools, NCRT textbooks are the primary support material. If you're a teacher and you have to prepare your unit plan, okay? And based on the unit plan, you'll be preparing your lesson plan. So, for this, textbook is the primary source for a teacher. For state governments, as education comes in the concurrent list, most of the state governments have their own textbook. But then, most of the state governments have already fallen in line with what NCERT textbooks were. Not the recent textbooks, but the textbook just before the recent ones. So, these, okay, they are designed by experts to be inquiry based. Inquiry based means where students can inquire and learn. Again, an inquiry that is guided, structured, and open. Then, a good teacher uses a textbook as a resource to support their lecture. Now, if you are able to remember your classes when you were a student, you might have seen many of the teachers using textbook in the classroom to teach. They'll say, chapter number this, page number this, paragraph this, read. Right? Or the teacher will read and you look at the textbook. Right? Student, you're still a passive learner, but the teacher is using the material to teach. Right? So, this support materials, that is the textbook. And CBSE also provides some support materials in the form of worksheets, in the form of, extra reading materials and other things that are provided to both teachers and students. Then lab manuals. NCRT also prepares lab manuals, especially for science, right? And there different activities are given, steps involved, precautions and other things are given for. So teacher, while demonstrating in a class, you can use a lab manual to understand the experiment and learn it and then demonstrate it to the students. Then when we go to the next one, that is Diksha platform. We discuss in detail about Diksha platform. So Diksha platform can be a very good tool, very powerful tool for teachers because a lot of resources are available. And even the NCERT textbooks have been linked with QR code, right? This linking of QR code with NCERT textbooks, the textbooks are known after the QR code linking, the textbooks are known as energized textbooks. Remember that word. Okay. So through Diksha portal, you can access materials like explanatory videos and animations, interactive simulations, practical question and quizzes, and also lesson plans for teachers are available on Diksha platform. So this was today's detailed discussion on teacher centered, right? Or when we're talking about methods. When we're talking about learning methods, teacher-centered methods. Right? We have discussed the major teacher-centered methods. Any doubts you have before we proceed to the questions? Any doubt before we proceed to the practice questions? Okay, I'll
Sir, excuse
okay.
me, sir.
Yes, Anu, please ask.
Sir, I
Sorry,
want to
Dr.
know about the student-centered learning method and teacher-centered learning method differences, sir.
The major differences in teacher-centered learning method, teacher does the whole part, right? We discussed three methods, lecturing, right? Then we looked into demonstration, then we looked into team teaching. All these are done by the teacher. Student is just listening, a passive one in the teacher-centered method. Whereas in learning-centered method, the learning is around the student, right? Either activities done. There are a lot of methods when it comes to student-centered experiential learning, activity-based learning, inquiry learning. The list just goes on. So our next class, it is our tomorrow's class, is going to be on learner-centered method. So once we'll go through tomorrow's class, it will be very clear for you what is the difference between teacher-centered and learner-centered. If I have to tell you now, like very clearly, teacher-centered, teacher is the main person for the whole teaching learning process. Teacher does everything. Learner-centered, learner is the main person. Learner is the main participant who does the whole part. Teacher acts as a facilitator, provides support wherever required. Okay, Nagraj?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking the doubt. So we'll move on to the questions now. The first question. A science teacher performs an experiment in front of the class to show the reaction of acid on metal. This is an example of, I'm sorry for the repeated these things. Yeah. So the options are
Demonstration method.
lecture method, demonstration method, project method, heuristic method.
Demonstration method.
Kavita says demonstration. What about others? Okay, in chat box. Okay, Nagaraju also has also said demonstration method. Pallavi, are you there? Okay, Pallavi is not here. Yes, you both are correct. The teacher here is clearly performing an experiment in front of the class. This is nothing but demonstration. So this is demonstration method. Yes, Anu, correct. Demonstration method. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following is a major limitation of the lecture method? It cannot be used to introduce a new topic. It is not economical for large groups. It does not cater to individual differences. It is highly effective for teaching practical skills.
It does not care to individual differences.
Okay, so Kavita says it does not cater to individual differences. I'll read the question again. Which of the following is major limitation of lecture method? It cannot be used to introduce a new topic. It is not economical for large groups. It does not cater to individual differences. It is highly effective for teaching practical skills. Others, Kavita has said it's option C. Okay, Nagaraju also says it's option C. Anup also says it's option C. Yes.
Yes,
All
sir.
three of you. Yes, yes, Kavita, please ask.
Might be A.
No. As we discussed in the session, it can be used to introduce a new topic. But the major limitation is this, as you correctly said before. Because in
Okay.
lecture, it's not worrying about different types of learners in the class. We learned, right? Individual differences. Learners can be auditory, visual, kinesthetic, and then there are various other categories in which learners understand and learn. So when you're doing a lecture in the class, it will not cater to individual differences. The major problem of lecture method is this. So
Yes.
you all are correct. It's option C. Does not cater to individual differences in the class. Moving on to the next one. A teacher using a 3D model of solar system in her class is using a or an audio aid, audio visual aid, activity aid.
Audio visual aid.
Okay. Both Nagaraju and Kavita has said it is audio visual aid. What about Anup? Anup also says it's audio visual aid. Now let us look at the question carefully. A teacher is using a 3D model of solar system. 3D model. Please focus on this. It's a model. 3D model means he has just prepared a solar system and brought to the class. So this model, is it a audio visual aid or just a visual aid?
Only visual aid, sir.
Correct. It
Only
is
visual aid.
a visual aid. A model can only be a visual aid. If it was a video, then it will become audio visual.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
it's
Yes,
just a
sir.
model.
Yes.
So no problem. Be very careful when you read the questions in the examination.
Yes, sir.
And don't hurry for answers. Take your time, look into the options, and then very clearly understand the question and go for it. Yes, so this is the reason why this question was kept. So the correct answer here for this question is visual
Visual
aid.
aid.
Yes, correct. Moving on to the next one. When two or more teachers collaborate to plan and teach a lesson to the same group of students, it is called team teaching, micro teaching, simulation teaching, remedial teaching.
Team teaching, sir.
Team teaching, sir.
So Anup and Nagaraju has said, Nagaraju and Kavita has said team teaching. Anup, what about you? Okay, so I think he has some network issues. You all are correct. It is team teaching. When two or more teachers collaborate, it is team teaching. Great. Moving on to the next one. The government's Diksha platform, right, which provides e-content linked to textbook chapters via QR codes, is a form of institutional infrastructure, digital support media, teacher-centered assessment, learner-centered curriculum.
Digital support material.
Digital support. Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, you
Yes,
both
sir.
are
Digital
correct.
support.
The other options make the correct answer redundant. Very correctly spotted. Digital support material here is the correct option for the question. A history teacher wants to cover the entire timeline of Indian freedom struggle in 160-minute class for a large hall of students. Which method would be most effective for this purpose? Demonstration method, project method, lecture method, inquiry-based learning.
Demonstration method.
Okay, Kavita says demonstration method. What about Nagaraju and Anup?
The lecture method, sir.
Okay, Nagaraju says lecture method. Anup?
Sorry. Lecture method, correct, sir.
Okay, Kavita has changed her answer to lecture method. Anup, most probably is not here. You both are correct, right? Again, teacher wants to take a 60-minute class, read the question carefully for a large hall of students, and wants to cover entire Indian freedom struggle. So lecture method would be the best.
Yes,
Demonstration would become very difficult for the teacher. Yes. So you both are correct. It is lecture method. Next question. A significant drawback of the demonstration method, if not properly managed, is that it is too abstract and disconnected from reality. It requires no planning from the teacher. Students may remain passive observers. It is only suitable for humanities and not for science.
See, sir. Students may remain passive observers.
Passive observers.
Okay, both of you have said students remain passive observers, and both of you are correct, right? Because one of the major drawback of demonstration is students are not participating in the activity. They are not demonstrating. The teacher is demonstrating. So students remain passive observers here, which is the major concern of demonstration method. Great. Moving to the next question. The success of team teaching is most critically dependent upon the number of students in the class, the availability of a smart board, the similarity in teachers' ages, effective planning and coordination.
Effective planning and
Coordination,
coordination.
sir.
Very, very simple question, redundant answers, right? So the correct answer here is option D, effective planning and coordination. Moving on to the next question. Yeah, correct, Anu. Which of the following is a key characteristic of teacher-centered method? The teacher acts as a facilitator of knowledge. Knowledge is actively constructed by the students. The teacher is a primary source of information. Learning is based on peer collaboration and discussion.
First one, sir. Yeah.
Teacher acts as a facilitator of knowledge is what Nagaraju says.
The teacher is primary source of information.
Okay, Kavita says it's option C. Teacher is a primary source of information. Anu also says it's option A. Now look here, a key characteristic of teacher centered. Okay. Teacher is primary source. Teacher is a facilitator of knowledge. Means facilitate. Please understand the definition of facilitation means support. Okay. Facilitator or facilitation means providing support. So when we say teacher acts as a facilitator of knowledge means a support for knowledge construction, not the main source. Whereas option C says it's a primary source of knowledge, which is a main characteristic of teacher-centered learning. So the correct answer is option C. Do you agree, Nagraj?
Okay, sir. Okay, understand.
Yes. Correct. Good, great. Anup, is it clear? So the correct answer here is a teacher is a primary source of information. Moving to the next question. A teacher wants to show the step of solving a complex calculus problem. The most appropriate teacher-centered method would be a pure lecture on history of calculus, a team teaching debate on merits of calculus, a demonstration method solving problem live on the board, a project method where students discover calculus on their own.
C, sir. C.
Okay.
Demonstration method.
Demonstration.
Demonstration. Kavita also says demonstration. Anu? Okay, so you all are correct. Demonstration method, that is solving the problem step by step on the board, is among the given options the most beneficial for the students. So option C is correct here. So with this, we conclude today's session. If you have any doubts, please ask. I'm sorry, Kalpana, I did not see that you were also in the class. I hope you were able to catch up with most of what we have discussed. So in tomorrow's session, we are going to discuss the learner-centered approaches. Okay, today we have covered teacher-centered approaches, and we are really sorry for this long gap because there were a lot of other engagements and works that were there. But from here on, we'll be going continuously. And what we have planned is on weekends. On weekends, we are going to cover all the major previous year questions based on the topics that we have discussed till now. Okay, so we'll be taking up previous year questions of different teacher recruitment examinations, whether it be KVS, NVS, or for BARC, Atomic Energy Central Schools, EMRS previous years. So we'll be collecting questions from all these PYQs, previous year question papers of the topics that we have covered. And on the weekend, that is on Saturday or Sunday, we're going to have a 1 hour session where we'll be discussing all these questions and the correct answers, why these answers are correct, and we'll be connecting it to the theory that we have learned. Any other doubts, any other clarification regarding today's session? Yes,
That
yes.
session, when that session will start, sir? From this week now onwards? From
We will
this
do it
week
on
onwards?
either Saturday or Sunday we'll be doing it, Nagaraju.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Okay.
Same time, sir? Same time?
We will ask you. What we'll do is, as we already have a group, we will have a discussion in the group, and as per your convenience, we can schedule the session. What do you say?
Okay, fine, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.